Welcome back to our 5th time together for the Teen Youth Tube channel. We are trying to bring about a revolution. What kind of a revolution? Are we going to overthrow the government? No, we're going to overthrow Christianity, a spiritual revolution. That's what we're going to try to do, because we are finding out Christianity as we know it is not really what?
As it should be.
As it should be. Most of it's not incorrect, it's
Incomplete.
incomplete. It is the incomplete part that is killing us. It's killing the church. We think Jesus died for our sins, and he did die for our sins, but it wasn't primary. That's right. It wasn't primary. He did die for our sins, but it wasn't primary. He primarily died for his Father's glory. That's right. And we saw that he died for all things on earth and in heaven. And as we saw a couple of shows ago, that the plants, many of the plants that we see today are under the curse. Yeah, they're brown, they're withering. It's just, that's not right. That's not the way, and it won't be that way in heaven, because the curse will be gone. Okay, name one thing you learned from our last time together. You got to think hard. What was it about? What's your first one?
That you can be a friend of Jesus, or you can obey Jesus.
Close. Can you help me out, Sonia?
There's a difference between being a friend of God and a child of God.
Very good. Oh, dude, one down for the men, one up for the women. Yeah, but you'll never forget that one now. McKenna, what about you?
I learned that heaven is going to be just like earth, but in a perfect version.
Okay, very good. Caleb?
Yeah, I learned that in heaven we're going to have currency.
We're going to have currency, yeah, good.
I learned that the works you do here on earth really determine how you're going to live in heaven.
How you're going to live in heaven, good. Dennis?
I also learned that you have to overcome so that you may rule with God.
You have to overcome so that you can rule. Okay, who can tell me the difference between conditional versus unconditional? Caleb?
Conditional, it's when like you do something for God and then he rewards you. And then unconditional is the one that you're given just by believing.
Yeah, very good. Conditional is, you're going to be a friend of God? That's conditional. You are my friends if you obey me. That's conditional. To him who believes, he has the right to become a child of God. All you got to do is have faith. That's unconditional. So, yeah, and then help us to understand, McKenna, the difference between works versus grace.
Grace is given freely, and it's for all, and it is what will determine whether you go to heaven or not. That's the first judgment. And then your works is now for the believers who are in heaven, and that is the second judgment. Your works will determine how you live.
Okay, very close. Everything you said was right, just you added a little bit too much. Did you catch it, Sonia?
Most of it.
It's not just for believers in heaven, believers who are going to heaven,
yes.
But you do those works here on the earth,
yeah.
Right? And so there's a difference between grace versus works. What are your works like before you come to know Christ? Anybody remember?
Filthy rags.
Filthy rags. You got men. The women are way up here. Okay, I just want you to know that this is not looking good for the men here. But okay, so grace versus works. Unconditional versus conditional, and it earns you an eternal rewards. What's another word we found for it last time? Starts with the word in.
Yeah,
Inheritance. And Dennis, did we find out, is that inheritance heaven itself, or is the inheritance in heaven?
In heaven.
Yeah, that's right. You are God says, I want to give you an inheritance, but you've got to earn it. Okay, and that inheritance is in heaven. In fact, before we even start, let's look at Matthew chapter 25, verse 34. We're still in review. Matthew chapter 25, verse 34. Verse 34.
Okay, Matthew 25, 34. It says, Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
Okay, here Jesus is separating the sheep from the goats. Okay? And he says to the sheep, blessed are you by my Father, inherit the kingdom. Oh, McKenna, what should you realize when you hear the word inherit? Is this just getting into heaven? You don't seem too sure. Dennis.
I think it is already in heaven. Yeah, so
It's already in heaven.
Yeah.
And so inherit the what?
Kingdom.
The kingdom.
Does that sound like something we learned yesterday?
Yes.
What?
That it is something that you will get if you do something.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be sitting on a what?
Throne.
Throne. And what do you do from a throne? You rule and reign. And there are three things associated with a throne. One, someone's in charge. Two is people. And three, there is
Territory.
property. You're governing something. And now Jesus says it in a different way. It's a kingdom. Prepared for whom, McKenna?
Prepared for you, for me.
For you. According to your personality, according to your likes, according to what you want to do, according to your giftings. Dennis, God has given you giftings. And those giftings that you have, you're going to be using for all of eternity. You'll be in an area of your strengths. It's not going to be, oh, I hate school, I'm a terrible student. I'm going to be a student for all eternity, future. Oh, Lord, no. What He has you doing, you're going to love doing. You're going to be hacking. No, just kidding. Whatever you love to do, that's what you'll be doing for your job. When you wake up, Sonia, you're going to say, I can't wait to get to work. I can't wait to get to work. Now, that may sound crazy, but that's my life right now. I love what I do. And I can't wait to get to work. Why? Because I know I'm advancing the kingdom. I'm doing things for God. And so I'm excited. I love getting to work. That's what it's going to be like for you every day you wake up. And remember, everything your boss says to you is going to be encouraging. Everything your co-workers say to you are going to be
Encouraging.
everything people underneath you say to you is going to be
Encouraging.
Are you going to walk away from the day wiped out? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you put in a hard day, but you're going to feel great. You're going to feel great. Now, he says, a kingdom prepared for you. And then what does it say, Sonia? What does the rest of the verse say? Inherit a kingdom prepared for you.
From the foundation of the world.
What do you think he means by that? What do you think he means, Caleb?
From the foundation of the world, meaning from what you did here, from the foundation you based here when you were on earth.
Good thought, good possibility. Something else though that might be in there. From the foundation of the world. What world is he referencing?
Earth.
Yeah, earth. And from the foundation of earth. When was the earth founded? In the beginning. Therefore, what does this verse seem to be communicating?
The kingdom was prepared from the beginning.
Before I put the first electron together, God had a dream in mind. Vivian, before he put the first electron together, he said, I've got a kingdom for Vivian. Does that blow your mind away?
Oh, yeah.
Even without the T? Yeah? Yeah, it blows your mind, doesn't it? But he says, hey, I'm not just going to give it to you. You've got to earn it. Getting into heaven is one thing. Earning your kingdom is something else. Blessed are you. Inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Now, you would think if what I'm saying is true, what's going to follow this verse? Grace or works? Don't look at your text. What do you think, Kyle?
Grace.
Works.
Talk to each other. Why?
Because I did not see the word grace before, so I think that it's going to be grace afterwards. And also because of the sentence that is there, it makes sense. Because of also grammar. And
What do you think?
speech.
Caleb?
It works because inheritance is all about what you did to deserve it, you know.
Dennis, what do you think?
I will also support Caleb, because you cannot be inherited something that you have not worked for.
Vivian, what do you think?
Works.
McKenna?
Works.
Sonia?
Works.
Which is a grace?
Should I read or just give my
You know the answer.
It's work.
It's works. Let's see. Read it to us, McKenna.
Verse 35. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat.
Oh, works or grace? Kyle?
Yeah.
Which one?
Work.
That's works. Go on. Next one.
I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink.
Works or grace?
Work.
Works.
I was a stranger and you invited me in.
Works.
I needed clothes and you clothed me.
Works.
I was sick and you looked after me.
Works.
I was in prison and you came to visit me.
Works. Oh. But if you never differentiated between grace versus works, if you thought inheriting the kingdom was getting into heaven, Vivian, what would you learn from this passage? How do you get into heaven?
By works.
By works. And the average Christian basically thinks you've got to be a good person in order to get into heaven. Not at all true. You can be the worst of sinners. Like the man on the cross. A terrible sinner. But he got into heaven. Why? He had faith in Jesus. Remember me when you get into your kingdom. That was faith. You can be the worst. But was he going to be a friend of God, ruling and reigning?
No.
Probably not, because he wasted his life. And so in this parable, the sheep and the goats, I want to challenge you. Jesus gives a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. What's the best case scenario, McKenna?
Getting to heaven and getting an inheritance.
Getting your full inheritance. You got a kingdom. Good job. Well done, good and faithful servant. Worst case scenario, Dennis? What's the worst case scenario?
Getting into heaven, but you are not given chance to rule with others.
Good thought, but no, that's not what happened to the goats. What does it say at the very end of that chapter? Sorry, we didn't read it.
I think from verse 41. Then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you cast into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels.
The eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. That's hell. So you've got a best case scenario, get your full reward. You've got a worst case scenario, you're going to hell. But there's a lot in the middle he doesn't talk about. And that's what we're trying to address. Get it? Understand it?
Yes.
Great. We haven't even started our first lecture. Go ahead.
Right. So kumekuwa na hii story ya a rogue police woman mwenye aliwa sijui mmekuwa mkiwatch news. She just went wild and then akaua her two exes, and she was on the run. She wanted to go and kill another man supposedly, but in the process ya hizo vitu zote polisi wakaanza kumtafuta, wakaiweka kwa news ako wanted, and then a few days ago akapatikana kama amekufa, then wakasema amejiua. So my question to you is this: with all that alifanya, now knowing what you know, if before committing suicide she gave her life to Christ, kama kabla ajiue aliamini Yesu kama mwokozi wa maisha yake, will she go to heaven or will she burn in eternal fire? From what we have just had. Yes.
I think that she'll burn in eternal fire.
Why?
Because of killing, murder, which is also a commandment, and also suicide. You're not supposed to take away your own life.
Okay. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with him? Do you?
Because of the commandments, it said you should not murder. You should not murder. So,
No, putting in, okay, Vivian.
I feel like she'll go to heaven.
Yeah, why?
We've just talked of for your ticket to heaven, all you need to do is believe and accept Jesus.
I think that in Christianity, if you do one fault, it's done. It's over for you. It's over. I think that's why I think that Christianity is.
Yeah. So that's now what we are addressing. Like the Mkenya average, ama teenager average, amefunzwa hivyo. That unaenda mbinguni based of Kenya umefanya. But now what tunajifunza leo is that kuingia mbinguni si based na Kenya umefanya, ni based na Kenya umeamini.
Yeah, sure.
Una get Caleb, is it making sense? So kama you're going into heaven, wewe kuingia mbinguni is not based on kenye umefanya. So kama huyo mama aliamini na akasema by the Jesus is Lord in my life, then atakutana heaven. So unaona ile story ya Jesus akiwa kwa cross, kulikuwa na thieves wangapi? Wawili. Na kuna mmoja mwenye hapo aliokokea hapo, mwenye akamwambia, "Oh, I believe you." Jesus alimwambiaje?
This day you will live in paradise.
Exactly. So alikuwa tu mwizi life yake yote, lakini hapo last minute akiwa kwa cross, Yesu akisulubishwa akadecide kuamini na yeye akabelieve that Jesus ndio alikuwa Christ. Then Christ anamwambiaje? Hizo vitu zote umefanya ni sawa. Bado tutakutana wapi? Tutakutana paradise. So kenye hatapata paradise ni nini?
Inheritance.
Exactly. So is it making sense? Caleb?
Here is today's talk. Turn to Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. We're going to go a whole new, different area based on what the conversation you just had. Galatians chapter 5, verse 13.
You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge in the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love.
Okay. Paraphrase that, Sonia.
I'd say it's the way we know that Christ died so that we are free from all sin, from all condemnation and all that. But now that we're free, that doesn't mean that now we just live the way we want. Kama unataka kuwaste maisha yako, waste, bora tu. Si Mungu alikufa, he died, I'm already going to heaven anyway. It's alright. That's what he means by, now that you're free, doesn't mean you indulge in the flesh.
Okay, you're getting there. You're getting very close. All right, let's go. We're going to go back to this, but let's go to Colossians chapter 2. Actually, 13. 13 through 15. Colossians chapter 2, 13 to 15. What I'm going to tell you, your pastors will never teach you. And I'm telling you, I'm weird. Remember I told you that?
Yeah.
I think differently. You have to determine before God whether what I'm saying is true or whether what I'm saying is not true. And you have to back it up by what you read in this word. Got it?
Yes.
Dennis, nice loud voice.
And you, being dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, he has made alive together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses, having whipped out the handwriting of requirements that was against us, which was contrary to us, and he has taken it out of the way, having nailed it to the cross. Having dismayed principalities and powers, he made public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in it.
Okay. Can you paraphrase that, Kyle? Can you put it in your own words? What did Christ do? There were a bunch of laws. In order for you to get to heaven, you have to live the law perfectly. Are you going to do that?
I'll try.
But are you going to do it?
Yeah, I will try. I will try doing it.
That's not what the text says. It doesn't say, as long as you try. What's it say, McKenna?
It says you have, when you're dead in your sin, you have to do it.
You're already dead in your sins. You've already failed. There's no way you can make it to heaven, Kyle. Not a chance. It's not 1 in a million. It's not 1 in a billion. It's not 1 in a quadrillion. 0. You have 0 chances of making it to heaven based on your works. So what does he say, Sonia? What did Jesus do for us? What did Jesus do for us? How did Jesus live out the law? Did he live it out mostly? Did Jesus fulfill most of the law?
All of the law.
All of the law. He lived a perfect life. Did Jesus sin at all, Vivian? No. He lived it perfectly. Therefore, he took this book, the law, and what did he do to it on the cross?
Nailed it.
Nailed it to the cross. It is finished. I completely fulfilled the law on their behalf. Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. McKenna, you there?
Yes.
Nice loud voice.
God made him who has no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God.
Say it again.
God made him who had no sin.
Stop. had no sin. What does that mean? What kind of a life did he live, Caleb?
He was pure.
Perfect. Did he keep the whole law?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Keep going.
To be sin for us.
To be sin for whom?
For us.
For us? And what's the result?
So that in him we might become the righteousness of God.
So that in him we might become the righteousness of God. We might be holy and pure. Kyle,
Yeah.
when God looks at your life, does he see a sinner or does he see a perfectly pure person?
Sinner. There's no one who's perfect. Even the Pope.
But when he looks at you, what does he see? Sonia, what does God see when he looks at Kyle's life?
The righteousness of God.
The righteousness of Christ. He sees Christ in you. And so he says, it's as if you have never sinned. Because that's what his son did. His son never sinned. He became sin for us. So when Christ was on the cross, what did God see when Christ was on the cross?
See?
Sin. And what did he do when he saw that sin? Yeah, he turned away from Christ. Why? He can't have a relationship with anything that is sinful. Father, why hast thou forsaken me? Why did he forsake Christ, his own son, Vivian?
Because he was sin.
Because he was sin. So that now, Vivian, when he looks at you, what does this verse tell us?
The righteousness of God.
Righteousness of God, that's right. Is he saying, yeah, but they're still sinners? Does he have a relationship with you?
Yes.
Yes. Does he have fellowship with you?
Yes.
If you keep his laws, his command. Differentiate between being a child of God and being a friend of God. Every one of you here, I assume, is a child of God. I do not know if all of you are friends of God. So everyone who is a child, the law has been fulfilled partially, completely on your behalf. You should wake up every morning as if you have never sinned. That's how God sees you. That's how God sees you. That's different, isn't it? Because usually you wake up, oh, I'm so sinful, I feel so bad, I can't believe I did. No. You are a child of God. He looks at you perfectly. But let me ask you this question. Do you ever get distant in your relationship with your parents?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Are you still their child?
Of course.
Of course. Is your fellowship healthy?
A bit raggedy, maybe.
A bit rugged? Yeah? That's the same with God. You're his child. You're going to heaven. But your fellowship can be broken. You can be a child but not a friend. So let's go back to the original verse we're looking at, Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. I want you to see it in a new light. Go ahead, Sonia, nice and loud.
For you were called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another.
Do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh. What did they know in Galatia? What had happened to all of their sin? It was what?
Nailed to the cross.
Nailed to the cross. And therefore they said, You got it, Sonia. What did they say? We can do anything we want. And Paul knew that. They knew they were children of God. And if they slept around, didn't matter. Their sin was nailed to the cross. What did they miss?
Friendship.
Yes, that they can be a child of God but not a friend of God. So Paul says, you got a choice. You got a choice. And let's see what choice. Let's go on down to verse Galatians chapter 5. Pick it up at verse 16. Caleb, nice loud voice. Galatians, okay, hold on. You're going to read verse 16 on down to verse 21. I'm sorry, my eyes. 21. Let's go to 21, or I'll stop you at this right time.
So Galatians 5:16 says, "So I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh."
Stop right there. What's he saying?
Walk by the Spirit.
Which means, give the Spirit control of your life. He's in you, but He's not sitting on the throne of your life. He's not in charge. Understand that? Christ, God can be in you, but not in control of you.
Yes.
Just as you can have, you'll always be a child of your parent, but you're not always going to have that good fellowship. Sometimes you can walk away from your parents saying, I hate my parents. Right? Have you ever done that, Vivian?
No.
Oh. Okay, McKenna, give us the real answer.
Yes, she has.
I'm always saying I hate my parents.
So we can be distant in our relationship with God. Okay? But we're still a child. So he says you got a choice. Either walk in the Spirit or walk in your flesh. What does the flesh want to do, Dennis?
Yeah, hardly pleasures.
Let's get real honest here. Speak truth. Say it in Swahili so I don't understand it.
Like example, sometimes depend that the flesh, example, I feel like I have to drink alcohol, but you know that it's not in the laws of God. So you see, it's like the flesh contradicts the spirit.
Yeah, you want to sleep around. You want to have sex. You want to steal things. You want to hack into phones. You want to do all these different things. And so God says, that's the flesh. You have a choice. Go with your flesh or go with the Spirit. Keep reading.
Yeah. So verse 17. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want.
Keep going.
18. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. 19. The acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity, and debauchery. 20. Idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions. Yeah, so 21. And envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like.
Stop. Does that sound like the Kenyan youth of today?
Yeah. Very much.
Even in the church?
Yes.
And what's Paul saying to the Kenyan youth of the church? You got a choice.
Yeah.
Walk in the flesh
And the Spirit.
or walk in the Spirit. You get a choice, one or the other. Now let's see what Paul says as he wraps it all up.
Yeah, so on to 21. And envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God.
McKenna, what did he just say?
You will not inherit the kingdom of God if you live by the flesh.
Did he say they're not going to go to heaven?
No.
No. He said they're not going to get their full inheritance. So remember, let's go back to verse 13. Read it, Sonia.
For you are called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh.
Stop right there. What's he basically saying? Your sin was? You can do anything you want, but I don't recommend it. Because if you do walk according to the flesh, you're not going to get your inheritance. You're not going to get your inheritance. Kyle.
But Jesus drank wine. In fact, he also turned water into wine. And in verse 20, it says that desire of getting drunk is
debauchery.
Desires of the flesh. But also Jesus did it. So is he also doing the wrong thing?
Good question. Excellent question. Go ahead.
Okay, so Jesus performed a miracle so that he showed his power. Like he wanted to show his power. You see?
And he never got drunk.
Yeah,
They
he
don't
never
record
got
anyone
Does
that
the
got
Bible
drunk.
say you cannot drink?
No.
It says
Drunk.
don't get drunk.
Yes.
Jesus has no problem. In fact, you go to Isaiah and he says heaven will be like the best of meats, the finest of wines. Guess what? If you don't drink here on earth, you're going to drink in heaven. Maybe. Guess what part of the curse? Guess what's a part of the curse? Drinking too much wine gets you drunk. But in heaven,
Maybe we'll just no.
you're just going to go to the bathroom a lot. There will be wine in heaven. It's not a sin to drink. It's a sin to get
Drunk.
Why? What does drinking? What happens to you when you get drunk, Vivian? Or Vivian? Sorry.
You
What happens to your personality?
it changes.
It changes. What happens when you give your heart to the Spirit of God? What happens to your personality?
Changes.
That's what he's saying. Walk in the flesh. If you get drunk, you're going to change. Walk in the Spirit, you're going to change. People are going to say, you're weird.
Yeah.
You're different. What is it about you? And then eventually they're going to say, I don't know what it is, but I want it. I want what you've got. Because my life is empty. It's hell. I hate myself. You seem to like yourself. You seem to be okay with yourself. Okay? We're going to look at one last passage and then wrap this lecture up that I was never planning to give. Go to Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. This is the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, verse 2 was given to his disciples. Now remember I told you earlier, in a few episodes ago, this book is very hard to understand. Let me tell you why the Sermon on the Mount is so difficult to understand. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 2, it says, he pulled his disciples up on top of the mountain and began to teach them. So the Sermon on the Mount is to believers. But at the very end of the Sermon on the Mount, it says, the crowds were amazed at his teachings. Oh, it sounds like non-believers were there. So is the Sermon on the Mount to believers or non-believers?
To everyone.
We don't know, because this is hard to understand. Okay?
Yeah.
So that plays a role in the verses we're going to look at. Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. Kyle, read them.
Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy, that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few.
Okay. So he's saying, hey, there are two gates, right? Or two doors. Okay, so he's saying there are two doors, right? Is this door, this is the tough question. This is why the Bible is so hard to understand, Vivian. Is this door the beginning of your Christian walk or the end of your Christian walk?
It is the
As Caleb says with such confidence. It's hard to understand, isn't it? If it's the beginning, it changes the whole meaning of the passage. If it's the end, it changes the whole meaning of the passage. Okay? So let's assume, I'm going to assume it's the beginning. Okay? So he says, enter by the narrow gate. It's a small gate. Okay? For the gate is wide, and the way is easy that leads to destruction. The word destruction, apollyon, the Greek word, can mean a couple of things. One of the things it can mean is dysfunctional. You understand dysfunctional?
Yes.
Okay? Is your family dysfunctional? Oh man, yeah, our so dysfunctional. My mom doesn't really talk to my dad. They don't have any kind of a relationship. We don't have any family meetings. We never talk about anything. I can't talk my heart to my parents. I have to talk it to my... That's a dysfunctional family. That's a dysfunctional family. A functional family, the husband loves the wife. He treats her like Christ treats the church. Parents can talk to the children. Children can talk to... That's a functional family. Jesus says, small and narrow is the door, and wide is the door that leads to destruction. And it's an easy way. The word way is the same word that was used as a way into a city. The major road into a city. What do you, in a village, how do I explain this? Anybody ever watched the movie Aladdin?
Yeah.
Okay. What happens when he's first coming into the city? People try to do what?
Touch him.
Touch him and sell him things, right? Hey, buy a special deal just for you. You look so, let me give you the special deal. Okay? That's what he's referencing. Where there's a bunch of people, and do you usually get a good deal there or not? No, usually they rip you off.
Yeah.
Because you've never seen the real prices.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? But this is a special deal for you. They jack it up 4 times. They give you off half price. And you go, I got half price off. This is great. You go inside and say, I could have gotten this for a quarter of the price.
Yeah.
I paid twice. You get ripped off.
Yeah.
Okay? Easy is the way that leads to destruction. In other words, the way that the world offers, and first off, who's in charge of this world? Anybody know? Satan, the prince of this world. But the prince of this world, the scriptures say it's the prince of this world. He's in charge of this world. I see it all over the place. And what does this world say to the average Kenyan youth is really cool?
Drugs.
Drugs, sex, money, hacking, all these things. Yeah. And Jesus says, broad is that way. Everyone's doing it. Why say no? You're weird. Everyone's doing it. Broad is the way that leads to destruction. Does it mean you're going to go to hell? No.
Are we still looking at the reference of the gate being in the beginning?
Oh, there's the question. That's a great question. And is he talking to his disciples or the crowds? If he's talking to his disciples, is there any way they can lose their salvation? No. It was
Nailed to the cross.
nailed to the cross. Can't lose your salvation. But you can lose your inheritance. So he's saying there's 2 doors. One's narrow, one's wide. The wide way is easy. Everybody's doing it. The world tells you to do it. All you got to do is turn on a movie and watch the commercials, and it says, everybody has the nice car. Everyone has the beautiful body. Everyone has the perfect face. Everyone has the car, the great job, the perfect home. And you, I want that, I want that, I want that. It's easy. But it leads to destruction, dysfunctionality. Oh, I broke up with my girlfriend. I broke up with my boyfriend. My life is terrible. I'm going to end my life. It's just terrible. God says, you didn't follow my way. You didn't follow my way. Follow my way. And can you feel terrible if your boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up you following the way? Yes, you can feel terrible. But you can still have that fellowship, that rock, that you can say, I'm okay, I'm going to survive. It hurts, but I'm going to survive. Wide is the way that leads to destruction. Then he says, narrow is the door, and hard is the way that leads to everlasting life. The word hard is the word in the Greek pressure. In the old days, do you know how they made wine? McKenna, any idea how they made wine?
They will smash it with their feet.
Yeah, they would press it. That's the same Greek word. Hard, pressure. What's he saying? If you follow my way, it's going to be hard. How's it going to be hard, Sonia? What do non-Christians, or what do even Christians who are in your youth group say to you who are making these radical decisions of, I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to open my legs to anybody until I get married. I'm not going to... What are they saying to you?
You're weird, you're different, you're pretending. Everyone is just going to give in.
Yeah.
Condemnation.
Condemnation. It's hard, Jesus says. It's hard. It's not easy. But it leads to everlasting life. Is he referencing heaven? Maybe yes, maybe no, but no. That if he's referencing heaven, that means you have to go through difficult times in order to get into heaven. Do you have to go through difficult times in order to get into heaven, McKenna? No, you just have to have faith. So this everlasting life must not be heaven, it must be... What's the opposite of a dysfunctional life? Functional life. Not only here on earth, but for all eternity future. So I want to challenge you. Paul, walk in the flesh or walk in the spirit. It's your choice. Jesus, the door is narrow or the way is Why? It's your choice. It's your choice. I nailed your sins to the
Cross.
You have absolute freedom to do whatever you want. Choose wisely. Dennis, name one thing new you learned.
I learned that the choice is mine, either to walk in the flesh or in the spirit.
Vivian,
Just because we're free in Christ doesn't mean we should live however we want.
Caleb,
Our sins were nailed on the cross.
McKenna,
Jesus died for us, but we had to make a choice to live.
poor Kyle. He just took Kyle's.
Yes.
Sonia,
I have learned that the narrow way is the hard way. But you gotta pick to do the hard things sometimes.
Kyle,
That it won't be easy at all, and the way to doing it is very narrow. The path is narrow, so you have to do some things so that you can fit in.
good. Yes. Welcome to lecture number 5. Can't wait for lecture number 6. Thanks for coming.